Hello, everybody, and welcome to Take Your Time, Persona podcast, where we play through Persona 3 Reload in real time, along with the in-game calendar dates. My name is Tom Marks, joined as always by Jonathon Dornbush.
You
Jonathan,
forgot my
how are
name,
you?
Didn't you?
I was building up the anticipation.
It happens. What if you were just like, joined this week as always by Oprah? What?
She's getting around right now. You never know.
Exactly. She was at the DNC. She's our surprise guest this week. Who?
Does that, what year? 2019? 2009 this is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so there was not canonically a DNC happening during this
No, there would
portion
not
of the... Okay,
No.
just checking where we are in the canon. You know?
Well, I don't want to spoil when the game gets into 2010 and you start to get the midterm elections in America. That becomes a major subplot in the game, as we all know. Who do you think is the biggest celebrity who has played Persona?
Oh, probably plenty that we don't know about.
Yeah, I want to know. I don't know like a celebrity who loves Persona, but there's got to be some.
I'd bet Brie Larson has tried it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
She's in Switch ads.
That's true. Yeah. She's probably dipped into a couple RPGs and just been told by a friend, play this, and then 100 hours later she's like, I'm late for Captain Marvel.
If it's any indication, Ben Mendelsohn, he's a huge dork, right?
Oh yeah, he used IGN's guides. He
shouted us out in a video.
Yeah, that was really funny. Peter Serafinowicz, I know he uses IGN a lot.
This is actually a great segue, believe it or not, this insane rambling. Because this week, the most exciting thing that's going on is a film festival that actually does exist and we didn't think did last week.
Yeah.
This week we're going through August 18th to the 24th. It is pretty much a normal week in terms of just, there's a little bit of story stuff peppered in, but not anything major. There's a lot of free time basically every day. I think this week you get both the afternoon and the evening. It's really a proper summer week in that we spent a week on the beach. We spent a week doing training for the track thing. We spent a week doing summer school, and now we actually seem to have a 2-ish week period where we actually get a summer vacation. And this is one of those weeks.
You can definitely tell the vibe, and maybe we can talk about it either this week or next week, but you get the different vibe of like what is available to you in the free time. And I think what the game is trying to do to help you out with all of your relationships, given that it is summer school. But yeah, it's a little bit of a less eventized week. I think that is the big thing they tried to do with the summer, even if those events I know were not fun for people when it came to like extra school.
Yeah, but I think this week, before we dive into it, I do think this week was a really nice balance of, I preferred this a lot to some of the more, hey, you have to do this track thing that we didn't tell you about. Oh, yeah. Right? This week is a nice balance of do some stuff, maybe go to Tartarus, maybe, run into your arch nemesis who discuss philosophy with him. Take the dog on a walk, whatever.
Classic summer vacation stuff.
Sometimes both of those things at once, I guess.
Yeah.
But before we jump into all of that, we do have some top of the show housekeeping. Number one, Jonathan, tell the people about our latest bonus episode.
Our latest bonus episode, our August episode, is live. It's available over on the Patreon. You can head over to patreon.com/takeyourtime if you'd like to hear that one and all of the past ones so far. This was, of course, another audience submitted and voted on topic, which was us talking about which franchises out in the ether of the entertainment industry that are all up for grabs, what fresh IP from the IP trees we wanted to grab and turn into Persona games. They could be anything, so we really went some weird places, and I think it was a pretty fun episode. I enjoyed it, I think you enjoyed it, and the listeners and viewers so far have been enjoying it because Mitch over at the Patreon said, I am absolutely crazy about one of the takes I made on the show. I'm not going to tell you what that take is, of course. You'll have to go listen to find out. But yeah, it was a fun one. I enjoyed doing it.
That's just the podcast equivalent of the thumbnail with Jonathan, with his hands on the side. Yeah, exactly. Hands on the side of his face, a big arrow pointing to something in the background, nondescript.
thinking
Some
face, and
text.
it's just an arrow at a logo it's just like, that's the McDonald's
Mitch's quote
logo.
next to a stock photo of a person whose face has been morphed to have angry eyebrows.
But the S in absolutely is the cool S, like the Stussy S, just for no reason. Yeah, it's I've never actually made one of those thumbnails. Maybe that's what I should be doing for the show.
I've never done anything that extreme, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I've definitely done some thumbnails with text and faces, but that's not, doesn't always have to be egregious.
It's unfortunately the rules of the road when it comes to YouTube SEO.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's true.
But
Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. Before we dive into it any further, though, we also do have to thank anybody who's already over at the Patreon. We really do appreciate it. Support helps make this show happen. We love you if you're just watching and enjoying, but if you do support us, even more so. And we'd like to call out, do our confident call out for the people at the Palace Ruler tier, as always. So thank you to Akechi as a Jelly Bean, Astral Clock Tower, Brody S, Cameron C, Claudia R, Dallas, Damon, Dan F, Danimal Lover 01, Default Titus, Dexter, Keegan H, Michael V, Philip S, Programmer Sid, Sam K, Sarah M, Shade, Willie Wang Wang, and Zachary L. Thank you very much to all of you folk. And again, take your time. Patreon.com/takeyourtime. Takeyourtime.com/Patreon. Maybe that'll work. I don't know.
It doesn't, but give it a try. Domains are expensive, but if more of you join, perhaps we can get that domain.
This is where your Patreon dollars are going. No. Anyway, pop quiz. We have a pop quiz from last week, don't we?
We do. We have several pop quizzes, if you remember correctly.
No.
Well,
yeah, there was yeah. I was like, what did I ask? So did we get any responses? The question was, how many cards total are in a modern tarot deck, according to Mr. Edogawa, after explaining all of the 22 major arcana. He also said there's some amount of minor arcana, and then I believe the follow-up question was, what are the minor arcana called beyond just number cards?
yes. So I have the number answer. If it's my understanding, because that's what I know to be a tarot deck, because I did look at the one we have, is the answer that was in the game, though, 78.
That is correct.
Well, then, congratulations to Dan over on the Patreon, and then Q Uridic over on YouTube for both getting that one correctly as of recording. Apologies if we miss anyone else.
It's 56. 22 major, 56 minor.
Gotcha. I think we might have had a 56 in here. I'm gonna check really quick, or that just might be time codes on the page. But no, we didn't have a 56. We did have some other guesses. Unfortunately, incorrect guesses.
379.
If only. Sable guessed 52 because they were hoping that tarot decks had the same number of cards as a sort of standard deck of cards as well. Brody also guessed 32 cards, but sadly no.
Yeah, both good guesses. And then the follow-up answer, he said that people call them pip cards. Not just minor arcana or number cards, but pip cards, which I assume has to do with them having like number pips, like pips on a dice. That was my guess.
Not picture in picture,
no,
on your TV
no.
remote. Okay.
Yeah, every one of them has an episode of a television show playing in the background of the card.
House. Every episode of House is always on an episode.
We can't do this again. I can't do this again. We also had a couple comments you wanted to call out before we jump into the actual week, yeah?
We did. Of course, I also wanted to call out the answers to the question that I gave people. The most important pop quiz question. Whose head was Tom holding?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
And while we didn't get many guesses, at least that I've seen, the correct answer was, of course, it's still not coming into focus. All right, there we go.
It is.
The big reveal, if you didn't watch last week, is the lead character. I guess that's fair to say, right? Of My Hero Academia, lead character?
Yeah.
Deku.
It's Deku. It's Midoriya.
I did enjoy personally that the guess that I did see was Brody guessing that he was holding Crash Bandicoot's head. Sadly, no. If only. I don't know where my Crash Bandicoot toys are. But honestly, not that far off with the spiky hair, you know?
That's true, but the thing is, Crash Bandicoot doesn't have a neck. So it would be hard for you to remove the head.
So where does the head begin and the body start?
Yeah. Is Crash Bandicoot without arms and legs ahead of Crash Bandicoot?
Oh, that's
we don't
a good
know.
question. Yeah. Well, we'll leave that up to, unfortunately, the fanfic writers of the internet. But
is a hot dog a taco?
There is a whole podcast about that. But
really?
he also mentioned, Brody mentioned, my favorite Arcana is the Justice Arcana because it has some of my favorite characters from each game. And I just like that. Yeah.
That's nice.
I think I may have asked about like favorite cards. Sable said Justice as well. So a lot of Justice fans going on here, which I appreciate. But yeah, that's it for the pop quiz, I believe. Apologies if I'm missing anyone major on it, but thank you. Thank you to everyone who wrote in.
Yeah, thank you.
We did, as you mentioned, have some other comments that I want to read at the top of the show before we jump in. I did want to start off with Sarah, who was commenting on our discussion around the sort of idea that maybe a Persona 3 Reloaded edition, or as Tom called it, She-Load, can maybe come about one day in the future. Sarah mentioned one possible way for this to happen that comes to mind is a Switch 2 exclusive definitive edition. Nintendo has a history of working with and funding Atlas games like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, SMT5, so perhaps they could help with the development costs. Nintendo would be incentivized to have strong third-party support at launch, or near launch probably when this might come out. But for Atlas, it gives them a new audience, Nintendo-only customers, and repeat customers, fans who want new content. If not, I hope we get a definitive edition down the line. And certainly, Atlas is no stranger to definitive editions. We'll see what happens. But I like that as that's a reason, at least. That gives the edition a reason to exist, but we'll see.
Sure.
Moving on from there, Nick mentioned, I really enjoyed Mr. Edogawa's Terror lecture the first time I played through P3P. Having played Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal before, it was nice to see one of the games describe some of the meaning behind the Arcana, which was such a big part of the series. I actually took notes on the lecture when I played through on Reload to refer back to when playing Persona games in the future. I did the same because I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of nice to know. I should keep this in mind.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we'll have more comments later in the show. Atomic over on YouTube wrote, a Heroes reference in the year of our Lord 2024. You found your target audience. Though I do believe we referred to him as Silas instead of Siler. My apologies.
Oh, it's Siler?
Siler,
yeah, okay.
which obviously is not
bad.
the more common form of that name, I think, in pop culture, to be fair.
Sure.
Silas is more, so I understand. I believe Dexter mentioned that on the Patreon, but apologies for the confusion around Siler. I almost said it wrong. That's why I had to pause.
What kind of podcast are we running that we have to issue apologies for getting like characters from Heroes name wrong?
I'm gonna cut this.
This is not me complaining about people calling us out. I appreciate the correction, but like, what rabbit hole have we gone down?
The esoterica that we have to apologize for. I really want to cut this portion out and just be like a take your time apologizes, and that's just the very vague headline, and it's just about Siler.
That's a very different type of YouTube thumbnail. Then we have to do the like black and white with the you kind of looking, or me, I guess, because I said it, looking kind of sad.
True. Yeah.
Start the video with the hey gang.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's not enough
let's get into the actual week. We've dillied and dallied a lot. I apologize. Let's start with the 18th. This is just a full-on normal day, but there is something to discuss right at the top of this, which is, I guess, another esoteric correction we have to make. Last week, we complained or mentioned that Igus says, hey, there's a film festival starting on Monday. And then we got to the Monday and, who is it? Not Tomochika, is it?
No, I think it is Kenji. It's
Kenji. Kenji messages you and says, hey, do you want to go see a movie? But I didn't really piece together. I mentioned, I think last week, I was like, that's all there was. There wasn't actually like a film festival in the way that there was a summer festival the day before. It turns out there is a film festival. It's running for 2 weeks, and it's just that you'll get texts from different social link folk who say, hey, do you want to go see a movie? And if you go see a movie with them, you get 2 stat points of a certain social stat for free. And you also get some friendship points with hanging out with that person. And you'll get an assortment of invites. And then, as we saw at the end of this week, you'll even get to potentially invite some of your own party members along on these little movie trips. So it's not a structured film festival as in an event. It's just a series of hangouts you can do that are, pretty good return if you get social stats and social link stats.
Yeah, it's a very easy thing to miss. I do remember actually interacting with it toward the end, and obviously this will dip into next week so we can talk about it then, but I definitely went toward some of the party member options because it was like, oh great, more fun interactions with them. I'm heavily invested in this group. Let me go see how this goes. But it is, again, I think the game doing some counterbalancing for, oh, you haven't been able to hang out with these people in so long. Let's give you a chance to do that, but not feel like you're taking away from the rest of your stats because you can't level up the friendship. Like it's not an official level hangout. So it's like, let's not make it feel as if it's not giving you its proper due in any given day, which is nice. Yeah, I think it's a good benefit if you feel like you need that.
Yeah. So today, you could go see a French movie with Bebe, which I did. I don't know about you.
Nice. No, I will say without spoiling too much, this week I didn't go to the movies at all.
Okay.
So, let me know of your experiences.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time?
I got 2 academics. Bebe was talking about how he hadn't seen his homeland in so long, which was quite sad. But yeah, it was a cute little interaction. They're not wildly complex scenes. They're not all independent little, like the hangouts with the party members or anything. They're not that in depth, but they are cute little things. You get a little bit of flavor, and they're, I believe, voiced, which is, once again, we talked about this earlier in the show. The fact that there are so many of these scenes that I wouldn't expect to be voiced that is really cool and impressive, and I hope future Persona games lean more towards this than P5 did.
No, absolutely. It's stuff you could miss really, really easily, so it's nice to have that there for you to interact with. I hung out with the old couple because I know I've been behind, so I hung out with the bookstore couple and got them to rank 6.
Cool. Later in the evening, the shopping box arrived. You also get a full confirmation, I think, from Mitsuru that summer break ends in 2 weeks. Again, summer break has just been this enigma to me, but now we actually sort of have a timeline on it, and as we talked about earlier in this episode, you have a little bit more freedom in terms of it's actually summer break rather than just a series of turnstiles you're being pushed through, for lack of a better way of putting it. There's a cute little interaction when you talk to the people around your dorm where Yukari had cooked something and it was bad, and she jokingly offered it to Koromaru, and Koromaru ran away from her. And if you go upstairs and talk to Koromaru, he whines and feels kind of bad about running away, which is very cute.
I love that note to it. I think that is such a wonderful touch because he easily could have just been, oh, he's hidden away or something. But no, the fact that you can go see him feel bad is very cute.
Yeah. And then what did you do in the evening?
I went to, what does that say? Oh, I was like very confused about my own note. I fused some Persona because I did not have what I needed for the evening, and I got a new characteristic for my own character, which was nice.
Oh.
So just mentioning that.
I didn't know that was a thing.
And then I hung out with Tanaka to get him to rank 2 because I think I am very behind on the evening hangouts.
Yeah, I hung out with Tanaka tonight and got him to rank 8.
Yeah, I'm a little behind, so I thought it would be good to catch up.
This one has taken a twist that I find very funny, too.
I'm excited to talk about it. I have finished it, so again, happy to talk about it whenever it makes sense.
Sure. That's it for the day, though. Nothing else happens this day, so let's go to the 19th. We get a call from Elizabeth in the morning saying that there is one human being in Tartarus, so now you can go do that. I'm holding out for more.
Why would you think that would be the case? Why do you think more humans might wander into Tartarus?
It did occur to me, I do think I'm probably going to go to Tartarus before anybody else shows up, as just like, I want to see what Koromaru is like. There's that door I got to complete, right? There's incentives for me to kind of take it in a couple trips. So I think I'm probably going to do that at some point, but I did not do any of it this week, at least.
Okay, fair enough.
And then, what did you do during the day?
What did I do before? What's funny is I actually wrote in my notes, I thought I was going to go to Tartarus the night before, so I'm glad I didn't, because when I got that call the next morning, it was a big relief for me.
Nice.
I continued my trend. I think my week will probably be a little boring, unfortunately, to read out, but I hung out again with the bookstore couple and got them to rank 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Putting in the work with that old couple.
They're so sweet.
It's true. I went to a movie with Hiraga and got Charm up.
Nice.
Yeah, I haven't really spent much time with him yet in social links, and I'm interested in doing so. But yeah, I got a little boost there in case I say some wrong things or whatever.
I don't mean to be rude to him in any way. He is one I absolutely forgot about on my first playthrough. I did the first couple, and I wasn't against it. I thought it was an interesting take on a character, and we can obviously talk about him more as we get through the game if we continue on with him. But he was just one that I neglected, and then by the time I could get back to him, I just had other priorities, but have tried to make sure I'm going to revisit him a little bit more this time around.
Cool.
Yeah.
Evening. What you got going on?
Well, what did I? I didn't take your advice and went to Tartarus. So yeah, I went to it. We can talk about it when you go. There's no reason for me to pontificate when you're the person who hasn't experienced it yet. So
sure.
I'll hold on to my notes. Obviously, I'll just say this was my first time to use Koromaru on the team. So that was a nice incentive to go earlier than not. But
was it exciting the second time around too?
It was, because I didn't use him much the first time around, so I tried to purposefully say, I'm going to keep him in my team right now, let's see how it goes, and I'm glad I did. I won't say too much more, but I'm glad I did.
It's hard to imagine he ever leaves my team. That's where I am currently.
I get that. My first playthrough, and without trying to spoil story stuff, I just very early on became attached to your very early party, so...
Sure.
Mitsuru, Akihiko, and Yukari with some Junpei in there as I needed to rotate in if someone was damaged too much during a run. I just almost exclusively stuck with them because they were the OG crew for the game, so it was hard to kind of force them out of it. But yeah,
I get that.
I'm glad to
mindset.
have a pup on the lineup. It's nice.
This evening I cooked with Akihiko.
Oh, nice.
We made hot pot, and I got him his characteristic.
Awesome.
Gets better buffs. He's even buffer now.
Just what that man needed.
So now I also have a clearer understanding of how this system works, which is specifically every party member seems to have 2 different things you could be doing with them. So like Junpei has gardening or books. Fuka has gardening and books. Akihiko has TV and food. Yukari has TV and food. Mitsuru has food and books. Like they all have 2 different things, and each of those things has 3 different stages to their story. And once you've done the 3rd stage in one of those little stories, you get a characteristic from them.
You've cracked the code, dear boy. I didn't want to say too much, but yeah, that's as far as my understanding. I've not read a guide that says otherwise, but that has been my understanding of it too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't really fully get that at first,
but
it makes sense now, and I really like that because now I have a little bit more logic to it about how I can prioritize that sort of thing. But also now that I know that logic, I'm really annoyed that I hadn't been doing these earlier.
It happened to me too, my first run through. You'll have time enough. At least for now, obviously, you're pretty far in the evening. Why can't I think of the word? Social links.
I can take a break from Tanaka for a little bit.
You're okay. We'll be all right.
Yeah. But that is also why you will start to see me over this week, especially, and I'm sure going forward, see me prioritizing these interactions more highly.
It's a good way to go.
I think that's the 20th, or that's 18th, or 19th, one of those days. Now to the 20th. We get a weird little story scene with Junpei, who is out at one of the stations, hot and bored, as I put in my notes.
And it's warm out.
Ooh, anyway,
but yes,
moving on.
He's too hot because of the summer heat. You actually,
I wish that the podcast listeners could just see the little head motion you did. It was very good.
What's funny is, I will say, I enjoy that this scene, they do seed this, that he is too warm. That Junpei's big thing right now is that he's too hot, because if you talk to him the night or two before, there are just conversations you can have where this guy's like, man, the summer heat is really getting to me. And that's what leads to him needing to go out and kind of,
I think I.S. has a conversation at one point, too, where you can talk to her and she can be like, Junpei keeps asking to turn the AC up. If we're not careful, I will have to report his weakness to Mitsuru, or like basically is what she says.
Yeah.
Anyway, Junpei sees the girl who's dressed in the white dress from Strega out on a bench just chilling, and she's drawing, and he kind of gets a little closer to see what she's drawing, but he doesn't recognize her because these two characters have never met, because she wasn't at the underground facility when they came and attacked you, or locked you in there. I guess they didn't really attack you. And he doesn't really see what she's drawing, but she sees that she's drawing it with a lot of weird colors. And then she says, "What do you want? Go away." And he says, "Oh, okay," and leaves. And that's all we get for that scene.
Yeah.
But what did you do during the day for this one?
I hung out with the bookstore couple and got them to rank 8.
I hung out with them too, but I didn't actually rank them up. I just got them to I spent time with them to get them to the next level, and the next level for me will be 10 with them. So I'm almost done with that one. Okay. Maybe we can talk about it next week or week after, something like that.
That might just work. Yeah. Cool.
So if you haven't hung out with them, start doing so.
They're adorable. Why haven't you?
You get back to the dorm. Koromaru is whining with I.S., or whining at I.S., who's just telling him no over and over again. And the thing that has happened here is that Akihiko is supposed to have gone on a walk with Koromaru and has not come back yet. And so Koromaru asks you to take him on a walk. And then you do, and oh boy, some stuff happens.
What a good time. What a convenient excuse that Akihiko wasn't there.
So you go on a walk, you get to the temple, and then you run into Takaya, the head of Strega, and says, "Hey, come and chat with me." He's not confrontational, he just wants to talk. And basically, it's like a very genuine conversation between you two. He says, like, "Hey, I've got a question for you, but it would be rude of me to just ask you a question. So you ask me a question first, and I'll answer that, and then I'll ask you the question I want to ask you." And you get 3 choices. 1 is like, "What is your plan?" 2 is like, "Why are you trying to stop us?" And 3 is, "Why aren't you wearing a top?" And I knew what their plan was, and I knew why they were trying to stop us, so I asked why he wasn't wearing a top.
And this crafty SOB, this wordsmith of a guy, turns it into an explanation for those other 2 answers.
Yes.
Incredible. What moves he is able to make with just his words. Beautiful.
It did feel kind of like wasted questions, like, because I know they're just doing the story repetition thing, but I didn't, like, we know exactly why they're trying to stop us, so it was a little funny to have those be your questions. Why aren't you wearing a top if you didn't pick that answer? It's very funny, because he gives the answer, "My coat is invisible to fools."
It's a very good joke.
Almost a pop quiz question. Then he's like, "No, I'm just kidding. Why would you ask me that?" And he's like, specifically is like, "It's really funny that you would ask about me instead of my organization when I give you this opportunity, but okay." And then continues to explain his master plan anyway.
What I think is interesting, like, to your point, we do know a little bit, but we also have had multiple scenes of seeing his perspective that the main character and S.E.E.S have not. So while they have some understanding, to be fair, we have heard them talk more plainly than they have to the group.
We know, but the characters don't, that they're the ones behind the revenge website, for example.
Yeah.
And he asks you, why do you want to end the dark hour? And you are just like, because we want to save people. He has this very funny comparison where he compares it to car deaths and is like, cars give us immense power but kill lots of people, and you don't see anyone want to stop that, so why would we stop the dark hour? Because it gives us lots of people power, and also some people die, but cars kill people too. And you can basically just be like, that doesn't really track, man. So that happens there. I also, at one point, he was like, come on, don't you see my point? And you can be like, never, or you can be like, maybe you're right. And I chose that one time, and Koromaru gets mad at you.
I did that on my first run too.
Koromaru will like bark at you and be like, what? And he'll be like, oh, it looks like your dog didn't like that answer. You're like getting chewed out by your dog.
It's really good. To that point, he also notices early on, he notices that Koromaru is a Persona user. Like, he just has that vibe that he gets from him instantly. He's a very aware and cognizant of things person. He's sort of almost in between us and Aigis in terms of his awareness to things, it seems.
Yeah. He also mentions that you are very special yourself, right? Because he knows that your power is really interesting and special.
Yeah. And then he just sings Creep at you.
That would track. He gives you a piece of paper, fold up piece of paper, saying, I'm repaying my debt to you for helping me out on the bridge the other day when you totally didn't need to do that and everything was fine. And he also says, we're exactly halfway to the next full moon. I bet you'll have changed your tune by then and won't want to kill it, which means that he expects some revelation to happen or us to come to some realization in the meantime, right? And the paper, after he leaves, if you look at it, is seemingly like a note, like a research note from the Kirijo group discussing, as far as I can glean, the creation of the evokers and how they help people channel their power, and talking about MK, which is very clearly Mitsuru Kirijo, right? And then also talking about how it's okay, we have more test subjects if yada, 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 and it sort of trails off. So we don't really know the full implications of this, but he has given us information that is very clearly about evokers and the test subject work that the Kirijo group is doing around them is at least pretty obvious from what we know so far. And this doesn't get brought up again this week yet.
Sure. And obviously, without saying anything of its larger importance, I do really love, though, that he's like, my debt's now repaid. And he gives us like a half note that sort of makes sense if you have more information. But if we didn't have it, it would make no sense.
Yep.
I wouldn't really call that fair, but whatever.
My debt's repaid. He just gives you like a snow cone and walks away.
Yeah. And just
thanks.
Like, friendly IOU. Okay, whatever.
Here is a Starbucks gift card.
Oh, it's half used. What? Yeah, sorry, the code, someone took a photo of it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
And then I went home and, boy, Koromaru and I had such a tough day. He needed a good brushy.
Yeah, he did. I did the same.
Yeah, so you can brush Koromaru, which is a very, very, very cute cutscene where you stop brushing him and he's like, no, and you just keep brushing.
Which is really funny for me because in real life, my dog does not love getting brushed. It's not a thing he enjoys. But what's funny is if you go to him with a brush, he'll look at it really warily and then he just kind of just lets you brush him. Like, he gives up. He accepts that you're going to do it. But I don't think he enjoys it. It's very unclear to me. But he seems...
He does it for you.
Exactly. He's like, I get they want this, but also he sheds so much, so we're trying to help. But anyway.
I think we just go to the 21st.
Which is just a straight free time day.
Another thing I want to point out, though, in this, is that you can talk to Ken, who is again reading the fashion magazine at the table. And I love how many times I've called something out as weird or inexplicable in this game, only for 3 weeks later, some character to explain it. And in this instance, Ken is reading the fashion magazine, and he says he's specifically reading it because it's Yukari's, and she left it out. And so he just picked it up and decided to flip through it. So it's not just that they're, I mean, it might just be that they're using an asset and then they wrote in this localization to explain it or something, but also it could, like, this has a logic to it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
No, whether it's, yeah, and forgive me, obviously I don't know if it's in the original Japanese version or if this joke is in the localization, but the number of times these things pop up, to your point, is so impressive, and I think just such kudos to the writing team, both the original team and the localization, for making all of this so coherent and work together and thought through. It is really well done.
Yeah. Today, give me both. What did you do in the afternoon and the evening?
I hung out with the bookstore couple and got them to rank 9. I feel like I should just take the audio of me from the first day and just insert it here with a new number. And then in the evening, I hung out with Mutatsu and got him to rank 4.
Okay. I watched a sports movie with Yuko.
Fun.
Got some courage up.
Nice.
That was nice. Went on a little movie date.
I'm glad you're doing these.
Yeah, they're fun.
I think you'll get the stats you need in the long run, but I do think it is worth it for the fun the character interactions.
Yeah, what am I going to... hang out with Maiko? Her storyline is sad right now.
Yeah, let's watch a fun movie. Yeah, wait.
I will point out, no spoilers, the point I'm at in Maiko's storyline, it is actually the responsible thing to do to avoid her. If I want to make good choices as a person, I will never hang out with that little girl again.
I can't wait for you to forward some of the other social links if that's how you're feeling there, because I agree, but oh man, I can't wait. Some of these are just out of left field sometimes.
And then in the evening, I also hung out with Mutatsu. I think I'm also level 7 with him, but this was just wasting time to get to the next level as well.
Fair enough.
So let's move on to the 22nd, because we get a little bit more story goodness, but this is side story optional silly goodness, which is that in the morning, Koromaru runs outside on his own and wants to go hang out in the sun. And Mitsuru and Yukari are talking, and Yukari is like, oh, is that okay that he just ran out there? And Mitsuru basically is like, yeah, he knows what he's doing, but also we are technically his owners now, and we are responsible for him, and where it's up to us to make sure he's okay. So if you ever see him out on his own, tell him to go home, because he's smart enough to just know what you're talking about there, which is great. And if you go out to talk to him, there's actually a little, it's like the triple exclamation point thing where he has a little story moment that you can have with him, because he doesn't want to come inside. So did you do this?
Why would I have spent? No, of course. Yeah. What soulless monster wouldn't hang out on the stoop with Koromaru? Probably. If you did, it's fine. I totally understand. But man, is it worth doing this? This scene's really cute. I love it a ton.
Yeah, so he doesn't go back in, or he doesn't want to go back inside, so you just do the responsible dog owner thing and sit down on your stoop and just watch him hang out. And at some point, an old guy carrying shopping bags walks by and recognizes Koromaru and says, hey, can I come rest and hang out with you guys for a minute? And he explains that at some point, someone else was willing to take Koromaru in, but Koromaru kept going back to that shrine because he had unfinished business. And you explain that he achieved his goal and protected the shrine. And the old dude literally is like, I don't really know what you're talking about, but good, that's nice. And it's because we didn't explain to him that he wields a spirit warrior who can use magic to kill a shadow being.
I'm pretty sure if you told this old guy that, he'd be like, oh, you kids and your crazy stories. Anyway. Yeah.
And then you help him home with his shopping bags. And specifically, Koromaru makes you help him home with your shopping bags because they're heavy. And Koromaru's like, let's do it. Let's be good boys.
Yeah, it's very sweet overall. It gives you... It's funny because it's not as if the personality of Koromaru is going to be that deep as a dog, but it really does start to continue to paint the picture of this is a really good dog who is beloved by a lot of people and has seen some stuff which is really sad, and has soldiered on, and it's really sweet to have him as part of the team here. You go do that little thing, you meet back up with Aigis and Fuka, and he's just so happy about the fact that you got to help out and all that stuff, and your charm goes up, and it's cute.
Yeah, it's nice. What did you do in the evening?
I took Koromaru for a walk again.
Oh, wow. You had a big old dog day.
Oh, yeah. I did that, and we ran into the old couple, so... Yeah.
You're just hanging out with them even when you're not hanging out with them.
Exactly. I have had a very small social circle for this week in the game.
Well, it's good to know that that was the old couple, because I don't want points with them, and I didn't do this.
That's fair.
So I hung out with Junpei and made vegetables, or worked on the vegetables, chatted with him about the vegetables, chatted to the vegetables with him.
Nice.
And had a very nice conversation about how he's growing them, but they're growing him too. And got him his new ability, a new characteristic, and seems like a really powerful one. I don't know. Let's I'd like to hear from y'all, the commenters, the listeners, the watchers. Do you want us to be spoilery sensitive about these? Should we talk about them as we get them? I don't know. Let me know if you have strong opinions one way or the other about that, because I don't think we'd go like hyper in depth with them. But if someone out there wants them to be a surprise, we also don't have to mention what they are.
That's fair. Yeah, it's a fun surprise to see them for the first time, so certainly if there's people out there who don't want that spoiled, totally understand. I feel like they will probably naturally come up in context as we get more toward Tartarus discussions.
Yeah, once we get deeper, I think we'll start mentioning them, but yeah, whether we have to talk about them right away or not.
Yeah, I do think for what it's worth, we did mention Yukari's, but that's fine.
That was us weeks ago. Those people don't count.
They were immature.
Yeah,
uncultured
young,
swine. They didn't understand the thought of spoilers. Anyway.
Moving on, we got 2 more days.
Yes.
One of which has story stuff and one of which doesn't. So today doesn't. The 23rd, what did you do? Give me your day and night.
I did the shopping network, of course.
Yes.
And then
I double checked.
Yes.
Yeah, did you double check also if it was a ripoff?
I didn't know.
Okay, it was not.
Okay, good.
Because I wasn't sure. The last time we did veggies, I was like, this seemed kind of expensive for how many veggies you got. This time, I think it was like 2 of the onions and 3 of the potatoes or something. And if you go to it was like 3,600-ish. And if you go to the actual vegetable store, you are getting a deal if you bought those there. It's not like a great deal. It's just like a little bit of a discount.
Okay, that's good to know. I feel
Which doesn't feel as nice as like special unique armor you can only get at this place or whatever.
For sure. Not something that Elizabeth happens to have a request for you to need, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did that. And then I hung out with a new social link.
What?
And if you haven't hung out with them, I'm not going to say anything. But I hung out with a new social link.
Not the runner boy?
No. They are listed on the map on this day. So it's I didn't go hang out with them because I knew they would be available on this day. In fact, I didn't hang out with this person in the game until quite a bit later in my first run. So I was surprised to see them. So when I saw them, I was like, let me start this earlier.
Huh.
So
I'll have to keep my eyes peeled.
Yeah, there is a new one that I believe it pops up on there. I don't think you have to go to the location to discover it, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it does get listed. But yeah, it would probably pop up on the what people did that day, I would imagine.
I missed it.
Well, that's what I did for the day. So I got that rank 1. Why I forgot the words rank and 1. That's what happened. And then from there, I planted with Aigis, and she got a new ability that evening for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is not going to haunt me forever, I'm sure. I won't be dwelling on this all through next week or anything.
The new social link?
Yeah. No, Aigis' ability.
Hey, it's a good ability. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a good ability. So maybe they both should haunt you.
That day, I hung out with Maya, and I got her up to rank 10.
Nice.
So we can talk about that in the future.
We shall.
Maybe next week after, something like that. Whenever we don't talk about the old couple, we'll talk about Maya.
We'll push it off for 8 weeks, don't worry.
No, I'm interested in talking about that one because it didn't necessarily go exactly the way I wanted, or not wanted, expected it to, and yeah, it's just be a
Not
fun
the
one
way
to
you
talk about.
wanted would be a weird reaction, but
Yes,
you know.
that was not don't read into that, please. Anybody who's completed Maya.
Play it back in slow motion.
And then in the evening, I read biographies with Mitsuru for academics.
Lovely.
And this is, I think, the second time I've read with Mitsuru, so I was trying to get towards hers.
That's that day.
Okay, so moving on to the final day, the 24th. This day starts with a cutscene or conversation scene where Akihiko is at the strip mall and has confronted Shinji, who says, no matter how many times you ask, I'm never going to come back and join you. And Akihiko's like, I'm persistent. By the way, we have a dog now. And Shinji goes, wait. You didn't tell me there was a dog. That's not actually what happens, but it's basically what happens. Akihiko explains that Koromaru's Persona user and has joined us and yada, yada, yada. Ken... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wrote down because, yeah, that's definitely the vibe for me. It's like, what better sales pitch is there than a dog? The reaction I get from Akihiko basically should have said, there's nothing, I can't speak. Nothing in the rule book says a dog can't hold a persona. Like, that's the vibe it gets. It's definitely like Airbud rules to trick them.
It is. It's very Airbud. Because Takaya mentions it earlier, too, right? He's like, oh, that's interesting. Moving on.
Everyone's just like, all right, well, whatever.
Ken shows up and goes, oh, there's Akihiko, but I don't want to interrupt him, so I'll just hide behind this sign and eavesdrop on him instead. And then there's this interesting, very heavy conversation. It's like they're talking about dogs, and then Ken shows up and is like, I will mysteriously eavesdrop. And man, does the conversation pivot into not dogs.
Incredible timing.
Yeah. So Akihiko says that they saw someone die 2 years ago and tells Shinji that he has to move on and stop blaming himself. But Shinji really blames himself. And he says it's different than what happened with Miki and what happened with Aki's sister. And there's all this... He says that, it's just... Or he says what happened with Miki is different than what happened with Aki's sister, excuse me. And so someone named Miki died 2 years ago, and... Oh man, it's stressful and serious. And Shinji storms off and says, I can't forgive myself. So now we know kind of why his motivation for not wanting to come back. But then, Ken behind the sign... This means something to him, so apparently he knew the person that died or something, because he's like, oh, that means he's the one who did this thing that I'm not going to mention, but I'm going to cryptically bring up right here so that the viewer is engaged and wants to hear more.
Just so to set the record straight, because I do know maybe there will be some confusion, Miki is Akihiko's sister's name.
Oh.
And then it's just like, then there's something else that happened 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Never mind.
All good.
I got confused.
No, it's all right. It is a lot of vague talking around, but it's not because they're intentionally being vague. It's just that they know what happened. So it's not like they are not speaking in a conversation designed for us.
Yeah. They watched someone die 2 years ago. Ken knows what the heck they're talking about to some degree. So something nefarious is going on. And it's kind of like, again, this is me speculating, but Ken's reaction is sort of tinged with like a little bit of anger. So my assumption, and this is just me speculating fully, is that they watched one of his parents die and now he's going to swear revenge on Shinji because he finally found Inigo Montoya style who did something terrible, and then they're all going to reconcile and become best friends and fight shadows with a dog. So that's my speculation. But we can move on because I don't want to put Jonathan on the hot seat.
You can put me on the hot seat. I'm still not going to say anything.
Did that noise convince you?
It did. So what actually happened is Koromaru is Ken's dad.
I knew it.
Yeah.
This is why I keep thinking that Ken was a dog name. Anyway. No, you know what it actually is? Did I already bring this up? There was a thing called, I used to have this duct tape that had characters from a Japanese, I think, anime or cartoon show called Afro Ken, which was about a dog with an afro.
No, you have not mentioned that.
And that's why Ken stuck in my head was Afro Ken.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever...
I think in retrospect is a very offensive thing.
I mean, probably. Not everything was well considered in, I assume, the 90s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I still have that roll of tape at my parents' place.
Do you not use tape?
It was not great tape.
Okay. That makes more sense. Like, how infrequently are you using tape in your life?
Maybe I'll try to get a roll and I'll bring it back for a show.
As long as it won't
Bonus
get us
episode
canceled for you showing the tape.
I don't know. Please, if someone knows what this thing is and it's like widely considered a horrible faux pas nowadays, please let me know, because it's literally just the only thing I know about it is that it's a roll of tape that was in my childhood home. Anyway.
All right. Well, I quickly Googled him. I haven't seen anything that says the first result was not Afro-Ken controversy, which is normally a better sign. That's when you know something is bad, when you start to Google something and the first autocomplete is controversy and you're like, oh,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, don't Google Jonathan's name. Anyway, we have, what did you do during the 24th? Because there's a few things you can do. The game explicitly tells you, hey, why don't you go invite one of your classmates down in the lounge to join you on a movie for the movie thing. And then it pulls this really mean trick. I don't know if you noticed this.
I did. Yeah.
Conveniently, the only people in the lounge are the women on your team and a dog. And if you talk to them, Aigus, Fuka, and Mitsuru are all busy. Yukari will go with you, and then you can invite Koromaru, but he says no. It's like Koromaru's not really interested in the idea of going to a movie with you. So you can only go with Yukari, which is what I did today, is I went to a movie with Yukari.
Okay, good. I would recommend definitely, if you want some character stuff, if you don't mind using these days that way, the interactions, I believe I did all of them with the cast the first time around that you could. The S.E.E.S cast. They're fun. It is definitely great to learn from them and have these fun little interactions. I got Maiko to rank 7, so I did not go to the movies.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
We watched this movie with Yukari called The Willpower series, or Willpower with an exclamation point.
Oh, yeah.
And got academics for it, which was kind of confusing. But I finally hit rank 5 with academics after like 2 weeks of getting so much academics. I finally hit it.
Congratulations. Yeah, you're finally here at the top of the class with Mitsuru's favorites, so welcome back.
Yeah. Still not genius level, though, so I still can't hang out with Mitsuru.
No.
That's my next goal, is I'm just going to mainline academics to try to
Doesn't shock me at all that that's your next goal, but yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, what did you do in the evening?
I was so bummed Koromaru wouldn't go to a movie with me, I made him watch television with me.
Same here. I also watched the Wolf documentary with Koromaru again,
nice.
Which is also academics, and this was the second time for me.
Cool. Okay. All right. You're getting there. Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's the week.
We did it. Yeah. That is our week.
So yeah, it was a little bit more of a straightforward one, a little bit of story here and there, some nice little scenes here and there, but largely just a pretty straightforward week, which I imagine is going to be similar-ish to the pace of next week because, next week we're going to be doing, I think, a normal 7 days, the 25th to the 31st. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
And then the full moon is, I believe, the following week. It's like a couple days into the following week. So we have one more week of free time and then a full moon scene again. They feel like they happen quick. But maybe that's also because we had, like, multiple weeks of time skip in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, that definitely impacts things where, when you have summer school for a week and we functionally play for an hour of time that week, it condenses the time between them. So I get what you're saying.
Sure. You mentioned we had some more comments, though, that you wanted to call out, right?
I did, and speaking of pacing, quite a lot of people actually responded to the conversation we were having at the end of last week's episode about pacing and sort of
cool.
all the stuff around there. If I start to say anything, I guess that feels any bit like a spoiler, just stop me. But I wanted to start off with one thing Mark mentioned. They were sort of comparing it to they saw Alien Romulus this past weekend. They're going somewhere where they just felt like while everything was good about it, it was well directed, good performances and good practical effects, it was essentially a rehash of older Alien stuff. And so while skillfully done, if you've seen the others, you've seen this, and kind of it keeps the IP going. But they're like, one thing I can say about Persona 3, 4, and 5, because we were also having the conversation of, I wonder how 4 compares to 3 and 5. Obviously no spoiler for story, but they said they definitely don't feel like carbon copies of one another. Of course, there are certain shared similarities, but the themes, tone, and pacing of P3R and P5R are very different. The creators behind the games made a conscious effort, I think, to give the player a different experience each time around, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, because these games, or the structure of this game, the structure of a Persona game, which if you want to hear more about our thoughts on that, go subscribe to the Patreon. We talk about it a lot on the bonus episode this month. But the structure of these games could so easily become repetitive game to game because it is so structured and so similar in how it is built, and that shell is very rigid in its construction. I do really appreciate that these games are not carbon copies, because it could so easily kind of, I've seen this with sequels a lot in gaming, is you'll get the second one and it'll feel like a 1.5. It'll just feel like the same game but a little bit different, a little bit improved in certain ways. So the idea that they said, you know what, if we aren't careful, this structure is going to cause that, and we don't want that, is nice to see.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking to that, and I don't think this is a huge spoiler, but similar to kind of things I've been saying before, Dan also commented and said, on pacing, listening to this podcast has really made me realize how back-heavy P3's plot is.
Which is similar to what you said.
Yeah, since just playing through at a normal pace, I think of it as a game where so much happens, but you're right that it's August, and the game still feels like it's kind of in its opening act. I'd also agree with Nick, who commented, I believe, further down, that P4's pacing is closer to P5. P3 is the outlier. Or really, I think of it more as a throwback to SMT, P1, and P2, whereas P4 and P5 have a more distinct Persona identity, so they feel like it kind of more gravitates in a different direction. They also said, finally, as a podcast-only listener, for whatever reason, I found the "What is Tom holding" bit hilarious to the point that I was losing my mind in public over it, which I just want to give you a heartfelt thank you. I read my fiance this statement and said, I have laughed like an idiot to so many podcasts in my own life. I've only ever wanted to make that happen for someone else in real life. So the fact that that happened to you means the world to me, genuinely. And also I realized trying to describe that bit and what happened to someone is anti-comedy, because I tried explaining it to her and she was like, I don't understand why that's funny. But which
Maybe
I felt
was
was
a new recurring segment. Here, wait. What's on my messy desk? All right. Are you ready for this?
It's that time again, ladies and gentlemen. What is Tom holding? I'll give you a hint. It's not just a head.
It is primarily a head, though.
Okay, but there's an additional portion.
I would describe this object as at least 30 to 40% head.
That's fair.
That's your clue.
Really, really trying hard to keep this a PG-rated podcast after that comment.
Wait, I forgot. There we go.
All right, well, that's cheating now. There was a big reveal. Now I was wondering, what is the function of that? Because I was like, that doesn't look like a thing you would just kind of buy. So that makes sense.
Here, I'll give you one more clue. Its leg is broken, so it pivots.
But the leg is not essential to its main function. So
kind of looks like it's dancing, though. That's all you get, podcast listeners. That's all you get.
What the most thrilling moments in podcast history. Moving on from
just enough detail to be like truly anything, but also absolutely nothing.
Oh, legitimately, if anyone guesses that, they are psychic.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
give me another comment.
I was just going to say also, this was Nick's comment, so forgive me for reading these out of order, but they said Persona 4 is much closer to the pacing of Persona 5. Don't want to say too much more, not to spoil it, but 3 definitely feels like the outlier. Moving on from there, I did want to mention Sable said, I encourage Tom to keep doing the item questions because the more he does, the more I can randomly guess and eventually get one right. Francis was also kind of commenting on the fact that, their first playthrough, they finished in 2 months. The beginning half feels definitely slower, but I think we're seeing sort of the, if you've felt that way, if you happen to be playing along with us, fear not, it will pick up.
Yeah, that's good to know. That it's also just good to know that that's not just a symptom of the show for me, right? As not having the context.
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of those, I appreciate that you're doing this as your first time out. I do definitely think you'd be having a somewhat different experience if you were playing, within a 2 to 3 month span for sure of the story pacing. But there's stuff happening, and there will be more stuff that happens for us to talk about.
Cool.
Yeah. But thank you to everyone who wrote in with all of those comments, all of those thoughts. We really appreciate it. I'll just cap off as we get into your next pop quiz. Damon replied, Tom's titillating trivia is what he coined it as the pop quiz. And they didn't have an answer. They just went, who knows, man? I skipped all of the lectures this week. If the option to sleep during class was present, I would have taken it for once. Which I appreciated.
Okay. So pop quiz this week.
Go for it.
It is thematically on point, but I'm not going to tell you what that means. Now, this is more of a scavenger hunt quiz. It's a little bit of a weirder one. It's not multiple choice, and it is solvable this week of playing for those of you who would like to go and solve it who don't know the answer when I ask it now. I'm going to read you some names, Jonathan and listeners out there. Craig S. Smith, Sharon Waxman, and Catherine Billy. Jonathan already knows it, apparently. My question for you is, who are these people? And why am I reading you their names?
I'll say I noted one of those names while I was playing in the last week and went, all right, yeah, I didn't notice that there. Got it.
So that's, again, Craig S. Smith, Sharon Waxman, and Catherine Billy. Who are these people? Why am I telling you their names? And to be clear, the answer is in-game. These are not, I'm not asking you to Google these names.
Come up with your best fake background for these people.
Yes, please tell me who these people are.
Write a mini bio. We cite fake sources. Give us a whole Wikipedia page for these 3 characters.
Yeah, that's your quiz. You can leave a comment at youtube.com/Dornology. You can email dornology@gmail.com. You can write a comment at patreon.com/takeyourtime or takeyourtime.com/Patreon, maybe. I don't know. I'm Tom R. Marks on social media. He's at JM Dornbush. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you, whether your answers are right or wrong. And if you don't know the answer and are currently playing, go hunting. Let us know if you found it by hunting. I'd love to know. It's a Foo Fighters situation all over again.
And like the Foo Fighters, this scavenger hunt will go on ever long.
Boo.
I'm going to have to buy so many domains, man. Don't boo me.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week. We've got some exciting stuff cooking on the back end, too, including some something spicy. Is that a good illusion? Is that a good... Anyway.
Jonathan, I'm trying to think what I would tell you to say instead, but no, that works. Yeah.
Okay. You got anything else for us before we say goodbye?
I don't.
All right, everyone.
Just be good to one another. Make random guesses about what we saw on the screen, and have a good week.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time, and till then, see you later.